Man, that was a wild but really quick brawl where Sergei Pavlovich was eventually able to get a TKO win over Derrick Lewis. And man, it was an early stoppage. Derrick Lewis was on his way up. He hit the ground for a split second, started to bounce back, and Dan Miragliotta, who has a lot of questionable calls, let's be honest here, he jumped in while Derrick Lewis was standing up. We've seen many fights in the past. Joe Rogan put up a good example of Gray Maynard versus Frankie Edgar, where many of those scenarios, Frankie falling to the ground like that, happened multiple times in the fight and it never got called off. Or you look at Pat Barry versus Cheick Kongo. Sometimes you gotta let fights play out, but I do understand the stigma of late stoppages, and refs don't want to stop fights too late. They'd rather stop fights early than late. So to be fair on the whole situation on all sides, it was an early stoppage, but it wasn't unreasonable because Derrick Lewis fell flat on his face. And whenever a ref sees someone fall face first, it always looks bad. They're most likely going to jump in. Derrick Lewis was taking a lot of damage. He was eating a lot of punches. He got hurt and then falling on the ground like he did. That's the last thing the ref wants to see. And I also see the arguments that a lot of people are making that even if the ref didn't stop it right there, Sergei would have probably caused more damage. Because on his way up, Derrick Lewis is not defending punches like that. He's not seeing where the punches are coming from. He's looking at the ground. So there is a potential that he would have taken a lot more damage and possibly would have been KO'd. Because Sergei has an insane amount of power. He hit Derrick Lewis twice before Lewis started stumbling, and Sergei was moving backwards at the same time, which alleviates a lot of the power from his shots. A bunch of the punches in that barrage were missing, but some of them were definitely landing very clean, and every single time he hit Derrick Lewis, it gave a huge reaction to the point where Lewis fell face first. There was really nothing technical about the fight, but it was a good example of how attributes get you ahead. Sergei had a 5-inch reach advantage, as well as being much faster. For every punch Derrick Lewis threw, Sergei was able to throw 2. And because of the reach difference, Derrick Lewis was not able to find his shots, and they were ultimately way too short. Every single punch he threw was short, while Sergei's punches from that same distance was landing. And at this point, man, Derrick Lewis is being used as a catapult for the younger fighters. I mean, Tai Tuivasa was also ranked like number 11 or something when he fought Derrick Lewis, who was number 3, and he catapulted his way all the way up into the top 3. Sergei Pavlovich is number 11, and he just beat the number 5 ranked Derrick Lewis. So he's probably also going to find his way into the top 5. And at this point, Lewis might be at the tail end of the top 10, which is a place in the rankings that a lot of people probably didn't expect to see him in. He is pretty wild, he isn't that versatile, so if he could get beat in trading like that, there's not a lot of opportunities for him in these kind of fights. And he continues to lose to the better strikers, not necessarily the wrestlers. Derrick Lewis actually more often wins against wrestlers than he does against strikers. And this is another example of it. He was outsped here and had a massive reach disadvantage. Due to just those two things, while the fight being heavyweight, anybody can knock anybody out, this was a pretty likely result. And at 37 years old, well, before he even contemplated retirement, I don't know how much longer Derrick Lewis is going to be doing this. He became the old veteran that's getting eaten by the young. First it was Cyril Gane, then it was Tai Tuivasa, and now it's Sergei Pavlovich. But at the end of the day, Pavlovich did what he had to do. He's a young guy. It's great to see younger fighters in the heavyweight division. And with the excitement that he brings into every single one of his fights, he's always entertaining to watch. He's going to put on some fun ones, man. Imagine a fight between him and Tai Tuivasa. Or a fight between him and Tom Aspinall. That would be interesting. I don't know if he'll ever fight Volkov, but that would be a good one as well. He possibly has a game where he could shut down some takedowns, so maybe in the future we could see a fight between him and Stipe or him and Curtis Blades. There's a lot of good fights for Sergei Pavlovich, man. The one I would like to see the most is him versus Tai Tuivasa, but Tuivasa is going to be fighting Cyril Gane. If he loses that one, I think it does make sense. If not, perhaps they could do Pavlovich versus Aspinall when Aspinall comes back. Those two fights I think makes the most sense right now. And as for Derrick Lewis, the best fight for him would probably be against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. But watch when he gets fed to Alexander Romanov. That would be so bad, man. But his rank would be very close to Romanov, so he's fighting all these young guys, and that's another young guy coming up. And before you know it, Derrick Lewis is going to be the entryway for all the prospects. But him versus Rozenstruik seems to be the most logical fight to put together. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.